there been any discussions or you've been told anything about your future?
No, none.
Do you feel like there's still a path to earn a fourth season if the team can get it together and
Yeah, 100%.
get on a roll?
100%.
Were you given any assurances like when you got here? Because it's a 7-year deal, and
Right.
you've talked a lot about the process, the rebuild, the challenges of it, that you were going to be given X amount of time to do this.
Yeah, I mean, these are all hypothetical scenarios, I mean, I think for me, I'm going to try to model what I would expect from our players, okay? And some of those things I just talked about, I think that's the whole key is that as a staff and throughout the organization, we have to do our part to model what we would expect from the players and want from the players.
All right, a lot to unpack there. He kind of answers the two questions, and he realizes he's getting down a deep, deep hole that he hits with these are all hypotheticals. First order of business, I said this and I tweeted it. And when asked, hey, have you been spoken to about your future? He goes, no. Two problems there. One, he lied, that's a no-go in the Walker household. I'm not a fan of lying, which is a problem. Two, he actually hasn't had the conversation, which is extremely concerning, of where we are, where the foundation is, that nobody's coming today. Billy, this doesn't look good. Now, could there have been a question of like a conversation about his performance, and you can find loopholes, right? All those things you can ask questions. Hopefully he lied. That would be the better situation given the fact if nobody said anything to him. That was concerning to me. And then he spoke to, hey, do you feel if you have success, if you're able to bounce back, do you think that you'll be here? And I guess him saying yes 100% isn't incorrect, because if you are able to find some success and win 8 games or 9 games, yeah, I believe he should be there. I don't think it gets to that point where that's even possible. But Shannon, I'll start with you, man. What were your overall thoughts on him saying that, hey, he hasn't been spoken to, and kind of speaking about, look, it feels like he's not going anywhere. And that's even where Edgar asked, like, well, are you like locked into some 4-year contract and nobody knows? Like, that was kind of what he was asking.
So I feel two ways about this. Either A, he's lying, and I don't kind of hold Billy Napier in the realm of lying, or even being reckless with the truth, if you want to call it, right? I don't see that being a thing. And then, on the other side of that, the UAA is not safe from this, because if Scott Strickland hadn't had these conversations or hadn't talked to him about this performance, or is not reading the writing on the wall himself, then shame on both of them. Because if they think this is the best way to run a Power 5, Power 4 program, one of used to be one of the top schools in the SEC, then they shouldn't be here. They're in over their head. They're like in quicksand. And that's unfortunate because of everybody that came before you, of everybody, even Jeremy Foley, of building this program. And I think everybody knows the stats of him, what he did with all the coaches he's hired and all the success he's had. It's almost feeling like that part of history has been ignored, and we're using this new narrative as like, hey, we're the new Florida Gators, and we're here just to compete on a holistic, friendly basis. It's like, you know what? What happened to the coaches that were villains, right? There was a villain. I used to love Spurrier why I committed to the University of Florida was because Spurrier used to love to talk a little bit of shit. There would be something about him that was ballsy enough to step up to anybody at any given time and to put his money where his mouth is. And there was a villainness about, like a villain mentality behind him that said, hey, look, he's going to always have your back. He's going to be a little bit of a jerk, but he's going to win football games. You can even go down the line, even with Urban Meyer being successful. Ron Zook, even in his own right, had a little bit of villain behind him. And I think every coach needs that. I like Billy. And I think Billy I do think he has a solid mind for football. But he's saying he wants those guys to be like him and to be, to model of what he wants the program to be. Listen, it's not a secret that Billy doesn't really yell at the players, and his level of accountability is maybe a little bit questionable. And that's the problem, is that if you don't hold your guys accountable, like I'm just going to call a name because I don't normally do this, but if you're not going to hold Damian George responsible for just jogging on the field and chasing down an interception, and you make him a captain next week, then what are we doing? What kind of message is that sending, not only to the fan base, but you're sending that message to every other player that's on that team, or even every other player that might open up social media and watch that stuff and say, ooh, I can go play for the Florida Gators. I can get over on this dude because he doesn't have the balls to kind of stuff. He doesn't have the balls to tell me any different. And if I'm going too deep down that road, then that's just what it is. But that's kind of what I see. If I had my son going to the University of Florida, I'm like, man, can this guy get it done? Is he going to be coached? Because I know the way I was coached, and I needed somebody to be tough on me sometimes because I didn't do things right all the time. Steve, I know you were the same way. But if you don't have that guts, if you don't have anything, if you can't do that, then you're not developing me. If you're not developing me, I don't belong at that school.
You're not going too far. I'm not sure if I should hop off this mic and go do wind sprints right now. That's kind of where my
Oh
head's
my
at.
God.
You got me shivering in my boots. And
Man.
I don't know if
my
you're mad
God.
at me or I don't know
Look,
what.
listen,
Stephen Harris want to do push-ups. I don't know
change
what's.
his number. I'm finna change his name to Daddy in my phone. He sound like my pops right now, boy. Listen, boy, listen. Boy.
He saw our faces. I was like, did I do something?
I gotta take my glasses off, man. I gotta look this man in his eyes while he talking.
Hey, are you free next Saturday? Are you free?
I'm being
Are you free?
Listen, I just think this is the state of where a lot of us, a lot of Gator fans, and I don't know if you can call it City Saint or the voice of the voiceless, but this is where a lot of us reside right now. That we see this, and we want so many good things for this program. Actually, I want great things for Billy because I like the guy who he is. I think, as far as an individual, I think he is a very stand-up individual. If anybody's ever been around him for more than 5 minutes,
For sure.
but there's two things that have to meet. One is that he has to be able to hold these guys accountable, and ultimately, at the end of the day, regardless of what happens, all right, regardless of if he's a good guy or if he's a villain, he needs to win football games. He was paid $7 million a year to come here and win football games. And if he's not winning football games, he's stealing. He's stealing from every person that pays for a ticket, every person that cuts on their TV, every athlete that comes to the University of Florida. He's stealing, and it's not okay.
I said that. I said he was stealing time, and I got yelled at in the comments. So thank you for supporting me. I said he should be fired for stealing time.
That's right.
Him and Rob Sell. Rob Sell hasn't showed up to work in 3 years. They should both be let go for stealing time. I do want to talk about. I've talked about this before about the greats. Mainly when it comes to athletes, right? Like the Jordans, Tiger Woods, the Phelps. There's a loose screw up there to Tom Brady, right? You have to. You're disconnected to an extent, and it's like there's that level of asshole, and you've always heard there's like, yeah, they're kind of dickheads at times. You have to be, like you said, going back to that villain. And Spurrier is a prime example of that. He just kind of pop off. Like, I've heard plenty of stories from Judd Davis about them playing golf. It's just like the way that he would talk to people. One of the best stories he told me, they had a transfer FSU kicker come in, and he made the kicker cry at practice. And he's like, if you can't handle practice, you can't handle playing in the swamp. And they basically sent him on his way. Like, that's just, I know for a fact Billy would hold him.
and that's the thing. You're absolutely right. Steve, I know you had some moments with Urban that were probably less than stellar, and you didn't feel very good about it. I had plenty with Steve when I was a freshman coming in. I was an All-American, and a guy from Ball State hit me with a spin move. I played a great game, hit me with a spin move, and he basically stopped the film and belittled me right in front of everybody. And you know what? I didn't hate him the next day. I respected him more because he was able to call me out and he was able to hold me accountable. That's what it's all about.